Peter.
Marcia.
I've been told that I have the gift of spiritual irritation.
I wasn't going to bring it up.
Welcome to Suncrest United Methodist Church in Morgantown, West Virginia with Pastor Larry Buckland. Each week, Larry will ramble on about Sunday's sermon, impactful people in ministries, and no doubt, sports. This is The Rev Rambles On.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Rev Rambles On. I'm Larry Buckland, pastor here at Suncrest United Methodist Church. We are so glad to be on this journey with you as you join us for The Rev Rambles On each week, Tuesday mornings. And I'm glad to be alongside my partner in crime here. I don't know if it's crime, but I just, you hear that said. So, Mark Markle, how you doing today, Mark?
I'm doing well. My name's Mark Markle, and I'm the lay leader for the 9 o'clock service. And I'm going to start out with a throwback to an old comedy on TV.
Okay.
This week's verse reminds me of the Brady Bunch and the phrase, Marcia. Do you remember that?
I do.
I hear Jesus saying, Peter, what's going on? This 3 weeks, 4 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
And he still doesn't get it.
Right.
And won't. But
No.
Jesus is so frustrated. And one of the things that struck me about this verse is that Jesus says, don't tempt me. And I thought, how can Jesus be tempted? Because he's God, but he's also us. He's also human. And it's a different temptation than the one in the wilderness where the devil was an obvious foe.
Yeah.
Here is somebody he trusts, who he has brought along, who he has said, come with me, you get it. And then he says, don't tempt me, devil.
That's right.
Thoughts?
I love what you said, Mark, that it was a different kind of temptation, and it reminded me how that we are all tempted. We're all tempted, and it can be something small. It can be something a lot bigger picture. But temptations are real, and we have them all the time, especially with the subliminal messages of marketing and advertising and commercials that we are always seeing. So, but yeah, here, I hadn't thought of the Marcia. I love that. Peter, when are you going to get it here? And Jesus says to Peter, stop tempting me, basically. Get behind me, Satan. And it couldn't help but make me go back to that experience, though, because that's when we probably hear it for the very first time is in the gospel when Jesus is driven into the wilderness and is being tempted by the devil, we're told. And Jesus has the opportunity, according to the devil, to take a stone, turn it into bread. If he's hungry, we've all been there. We've all been hungry and wish we could just have something to eat. And Jesus, as we know, was God, but also very human. And so the temptation had to have been strong.
That stone reference, I started looking up stones.
Yeah.
And the first one that came to mind is when Jesus said, if you don't see me, these very stones will fall out.
Call out, yeah.
Yeah. Cry out. It's going to be, stone in our sense is a solid, inanimate object. But in Jesus's words, they become trip-ups, they become temptations, they become declarations of who he is.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder, how often do we become stones in the way?
I love this idea of looking at the scriptures on how that stone is used as a metaphor in a positive way. I'm going to build my church upon you, Peter. You're the rock. But also that how a stone can be a negative.
First service, you talked about fixation, how fixation can get in the way of doing things that we want to do. I started thinking about it. Isn't it a double-edged sword? It is. We have to be focused on getting something done, but open to options for how to do it in other ways.
I think about the scripture, I'm not going to quote it exactly right, but, we're fixed upon, the prize. of the high calling, and when we're fixed upon that, that brings a lot of opportunity and challenges, I believe, for us to achieve that. But it goes back to saying, okay, we can't, even when we feel like we get there, we haven't arrived. We don't just stay there.
And sit.
And sit.
You can't just stay there and sit.
If we have the mentality of what Christ is saying is that for God so loved us that all who believe, that we have more work to do each and every time that we are being fishers for people. Just because one is caught and brought in doesn't mean there aren't a bunch still to go out and fish for and to develop relationships with. And the relationship also is not a one and done transaction. So many people in our world are hurting, and even those of us who feel like maybe that we are living a good life, it's not perfect. And so what do we do to try to make this community and beyond a better place is my challenge, I hope, each week.
Well, it reminds me of the verse you quoted at the end of the sermon, which was, you have to lose your life
to save it.
Right.
And that just basically means that you are willing to say that it's not mine. So losing your life doesn't mean death. There in Romans 12, there's a verse, holy and living sacrifice. And so what does that self-denial look like to say, yeah, I'm going to take up the cross? What does that taking up the cross look like? It doesn't mean you have to carry this heavy thing and carry it to be crucified. It means that in the obedience of following Jesus, that you will carry things for other people. Because why do I believe Jesus carried the cross? Because he was obedient, and he was carrying it not for him. He was carrying it for the purpose of other people having life and it be more abundant.
You used a phrase, I think in both services, was Jesus had his way and Peter had his way.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of goes back to how do we figure out what is our way and what is Christ's way.
I think it takes more conversation and prayer. Having conversation and asking God to bless that conversation with others, and so that you might learn and hear what is important to people in their life. Where do they find joy? Where do they seem to experience peace? And what are the things that break their heart? When you talk about what breaks people's hearts, I've got a pretty good idea that more often than not, that might break God's heart too.
I'm reminded, your word ecclesia for the church of going out. I didn't know that. But when I over the past week, I started thinking about it. You know the old children's rhyme?
Oh, yeah.
Here's the church. Here's the steeple. Open the doors, and there are all the people. It's wrong.
It is.
It's wrong.
It's wrong.
It should be open the doors, and the people go out.
You're right. Yeah. I have used that before, Mark. That is so good.
Oh, have you?
That is so good. Yeah. We were taught that as children. And the reality is, I'm excited about the way things are happening right now at Suncrest United Methodist Church. We're seeing new people. Our church is growing. But if that's all that happens, is we get more people in the seats and we have a nice time on Sunday, we worship, and that is all good. But if that is all that happens, then I don't think we are fulfilling the Great Commission.
We are part of the community. And if we do not step out and play a role as part of the community, we're missing the boat. We're just missing the boat.
That's right.
Okay. I've run the end of my list.
I'll throw this out there real quick to you, Mark, is I've been told that I have the gift of spiritual irritation.
I wasn't going to bring it up, but since you did, it was on my list. But I figured, hey, you brought it up. Go ahead, because it's interesting. I like that.
Yeah, the gift of spiritual irritation is I want us all to uphold that awesome responsibility, I believe it is, to be radically hospitable to those who are outside our church and to those especially that are guests. That means taking a look at the church differently with new eyes, trying to see what it looks like when you walk in for the very first time. And if you haven't done that for a while, I encourage people, and don't take this the wrong way. I'm not trying to tell people to go and join another church. but still, when you have another experience, you think about how that you were welcomed, how things flowed, and we can learn so much from how other people do things.
Okay.
So Sorry for another ramble there.
Yeah, that's the name of the game.
Oh, that's
so I
right.
expect it.
It's the name of the
keep
podcast.
going. Yeah,
The Rev Rambles On. So I want to. So Mark, thank you for helping me ramble.
I appreciate the opportunity to listen to you ramble.
Well, I want you to know that you can ramble with me too.
I have a real close critic that
I know that. So I want you to know you're a close critic. I don't think you're doing most of the talking, hence the name, the Rev Rambles On. But we're glad that you're rambling with me and encourage you to do so. I also encourage others to ramble along with us. And so if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast and follow us at Suncrest United Methodist Church on our Facebook page or download our app. And we would love to see you in worship or check us out online. We have traditional worship at 9 a.m. and contemporary worship at 11 a.m. and many more opportunities, especially as we get ready in a couple of weeks to enter into this holiest of seasons of the Easter season. So we can't wait to see you again next Tuesday morning. The episode will be dropped, but you can check us out anytime that's best for you. So have a great week, Ramblers.
Look forward to seeing you on a Sunday.